Yes, people, man. We're back in the building, man. We're back in the building. Big up to everybody who is live in the flesh. For those who are obviously watching on the replay and stuff like that, you know the vibes already, man. Make sure you do smash that like button, man. Share it out, subscribe. All of the rubbish stuff that we will talk about at the beginning of our streams. But let's get into the nitty gritty. Of course, you guys can see the caption already. We're here to talk about Liverpool's first game of the season. Away at Ipswich, newly promoted Ipswich. Really good team last season under Kieran McKenna. I know there was a lot of news about him potentially becoming the Manchester United manager once upon a time, but of course he stayed there. They've signed a couple players in, most notably Amari Hutchinson. So I think it's going to be an interesting game, man. But of course, I'm not going to do this by myself. And every single preview that I do, I'm going to try and get as many guests on so we can all chop it up and talk a little bit about the last game and then taking a look towards our next game. I'm joined on the screen by Jerry, Els, and Harris. Jerry, how are you doing, my bro?
I'm good, man. I'm just chilling, just relaxing, waiting for the game. So I'm good, man. I'm good. Big up the
Els,
chest, smash the likes.
Els, how you doing this evening, man?
All good. I'm glad that we can watch a bit of football. We've kind of lost our minds this week with transfers, so glad the football is back.
No, that's a fact, man. Harris, man, I know you're all the way in Jamaica and that, soon back to the country. How are you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm good at the moment. Just hot in it. So I just had to find a room where it's cool, so I can lock in for this stream.
No, I feel you, bro. Bro, I've got my fan list constantly, especially over the last week. Yeah, this fan has just stayed. Any stream I've done is here. Like it don't move from where I'm at. So, but I know your heat is totally different to the heat that I'm experiencing.
I don't get you British guys, man. I've come back here, get how cold I am, bro. Man's walking around in a tracksuit and a body while you man ain't shit.
No, but remember what you're talking. You're talking about a different type of heat, though. You know what I'm saying that heat that you're getting in that country. I always say to people, the English heat is the worst type of heat that you'll ever get. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because it's so humid. Bro, it doesn't work. Like I've been in Dubai when it's 40 degrees. I promise you, I'd rather be there than here because here is a different level of of heat that man's kind of giving you. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Big up those in the chat, man. Hope everybody is blessed, man. Big up ends. Make sure as well, guys. Tariq is obviously live as well, so make sure you go show him some love. You know what I mean? In the building. Big up Andy in the building. Big up Saint. Big up Alexander. Big up Carl in the building. So obviously we got our first game, and we will chop it up, by the way, people, where we will look into the game, the lineups that we've all picked, etc., etc. But I want to go through a bit of news just before we get into that, because I know there's quite a lot of things that have been happening as of recently. Obviously, we've got the Mamadashvili. We were talking about in the back office just a little bit about this, but I'll go to you, Els, first. I don't even know where to even start, because I don't even know what's really even happening. But from what I gather, we've obviously spoken with him. He's agreed terms for Liverpool's terms, but we just haven't agreed a fee with Valencia. We know that it's a case of potentially. I think it works as we are, because we can't loan a Premier League player to another Premier League team. So I don't understand how we can in the same window. I believe anyway. So I don't know how it works with signing him and loaning him to Bournemouth, because Bournemouth seems to be one of the teams that's been noted out there. So I don't know how it's even going to work. But Liverpool are apparently signing Mamadashvili, and he'll be a Liverpool goalkeeper in 2025. But just talk to me, just in general about that whole deal and everything, and how you kind of look at it with Alisson as well.
Listen, I'm all for it. I thought it was interesting because Alisson isn't actually that old. He's 31, 32.
Yeah.
So that's not actually that old for a goalkeeper. But I like that we're looking at goalkeepers that we could potentially, replace him with, because he's hard to replace. But yeah, it's a deal I have no problem with. But it's just like, why couldn't we do this for other signings, which is what I was saying. Like, why can that succession plan be for Fabinho and Ginny and whatnot? But yeah, nothing bad to say about this. I just hope we actually get the deal done this time. Yeah, I don't really trust the club. I don't like that the clubs haven't agreed the deal. Until I hear here we go, or I don't know, whatever other terms we're using, there we land, or whatever we're using now.
Hey, big up man like Winnie, Big up man like Winnie. Hey, Jesus.
Then, yeah, but as it stands, I'm happy. He's got like big reviews. Like people comparing a bit to Oblak, that he's not the best with his feet, but he's a really good shot stopper.
Yeah.
All for him, man. Because again, we've struggled with goalkeepers before Alisson, so we know how important getting a solid goalkeeper is. So yeah, I'm all for it. I just hope we get it over the line.
Nah, man, I totally hear that, man. Harris, man, how do you kind of look at this whole Mamadashvili kind of? Obviously, it's not done, of course, but just how do you kind of look at? Is it someone that you would like for us to sign, or you know what I mean?
I have a question. Is he a priority? Is he a priority? And do you look at him and say, "Oh, that's a priority"? Because I was told this summer that we're going to be focusing on the priorities such as contracts, other players, other positions, and I feel like I'm looking at the signing and I think it's a good signing, but is it a priority that we really need for right now? Because I'm going into the season, and
it depends, because like if you think about it,
opportunity to sign him, yeah, like
no, but
it's a good
I'm
opportunity.
saying, no, but not even opportunity, right? If in an alternate reality, Alisson said, "You know what, bro? I'm giving you. I'm gonna give you guys one last season just to stabilize after Klopp's gone. But I've won everything there is to win here. I want to go and move on to pastures new. I want to play in Spain, or I want to try playing in Germany, or I want to go back to Brazil, whatever it might be. I want to take a big paycheck at Saudi and build a church or whatever. Because I know he's proper like Christian and stuff. Yeah, that's his ambitions, right? Is that not a priority for the club to secure a goalkeeper now, as opposed to waiting for Alisson to go and then us being in a situation like we were with Fabinho, where we're scratching our head and thinking, who are you going to get? And then you're going to get an Endo version of a keeper. And in goal, that would be terrible.
You mean millionaire carries, basically.
Yeah, man, that'd be like us getting like West Fotheringham in it, and just running that. So maybe it is a priority because Allison's told them, look, I'm not going to be signing. And maybe they're trying to. Maybe Richard Hughes, obviously, he wasn't part of the contract negotiations for Trent, Virgil, and Salah because he wasn't there in it. That's Schmatka, and that's what's his name, Julian Ward's side. They should have sorted that out. But as soon as he's coming, he's like, cool, I need to address that situation. Make sure we've got that on the wraps and also try and get these contracts sorted as well. But we don't know if that's going to get sorted. But hopefully, we've got a goalkeeper now that, you know, if Alisson were to leave, we've got someone already there in it that I think everyone will be quite comfortable with coming in and being our number one. I don't think that's a problem if Alisson were to leave, I think.
Nah, man, I hear it. I fully, yeah. Like even back to what you mentioned there about it being the priority. Jerry kind of said it there, man. I think you're saying priority, but it is a priority technically speaking because you don't know the future of Ali. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I would just, for me, something like this, I don't think you'd ask that question if Liverpool had done the other business that you obviously would want them to have done
Oh,
by
no,
now,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is sign the sign the midfielder, defender, whatever it is. We wouldn't even be talking about it. Did you get what I'm trying to say? We'd be like, rah, Liverpool, we've signed all these free players and we've got something for the future, yada yada yada. So yeah, I think listen, just take the opportunity. At this point, I don't care. Like, is in what difference is it even going to make? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, if he's not coming until next year anyway, then we're still, you know what I mean? It just get it done, and then we can still move on. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So it is what it is, man. But I like him. I think he's a decent goalkeeper. I think also as well, it makes me think about. Obviously, I know. Listen, look, I don't want to disrespect Kelleher because he's been able to do his thing. When the opportunities have arose for him. But I think when I look at someone like Keller, I'm like, yeah, I think it is about time that do you know what I mean? We can keep it stepping now. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, maybe now is the time that, you know what I mean, you keep it pushing because the reality is, you can't have 4 goalkeepers. We still got Yaros there. People forget. So at least 2 of them, at least one has to leave guaranteed next season if he does come in next year. So that might be Keller. He might just stay for this season unless a good offer comes in. So people are going to have to start making decisions fast. But we are being a tad bit in certain areas. We're being a bit ruthless. I just don't think we're being ruthless with the incomings. Do you know what I mean? So to speak, I think with the incomings, that's where I feel like it's just not really popping. But with the outgoings, I feel like we're finally doing what we. You know what I mean? Which is what we all asked for, which is stop being sentimental, stop being so loyal and all this kind of stuff to certain players. Let's get them out. Do you know what I mean? Let's get some of these guys out and then we can start, pushing for other space, within the squad. Now, this news dropped this morning, I think, or afternoon. Can't remember what time it was. Talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't want to have his contract talks of his future played out in the public out of respect for his boyhood club. Jerry, I'm going to go to you first because obviously I know you messaged underneath my tweet, like talking about it. How do you when you look at that, how do you see it in your head, or how do you interpret it? Should I say, sorry?
I interpret it by what it says in it. Like, you don't want his contract to be discussed, or issues surrounding his contract to be discussed in the public. Obviously, irrespective of whether Liverpool are meeting his demands, whether he doesn't want to go, or whatever it might be, or whether he wants to go and I mean, Liverpool don't want to keep him, or Liverpool want to keep him. He just doesn't want that discussed in the public because he's got respect for Liverpool. I don't think there's anything too major about that. I've seen that as an uproar, but I don't really get the uproar in it. Like, he doesn't want the narrative of him, or the narrative of him to be portrayed as like some like mad. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like almost putting him in like a Michael, like obviously not for me, but for some fans, like in that Michael Owen category where like he's being a snake because he's not signing a contract. When the club have put themselves in a position like this where they could have offered him a deal last year. Do you know what I mean? They could have offered a deal 2 years ago, but they didn't. They waited until it got to this point to start talking about a contract. When now he's like, hold on, if I was playing poorly, you'd bin me off. But now, because everything's like poor. You're trying to go renew my contract now. Like, if Slot came in and said he didn't want me, would I still be at the club? Like, there's loads of things about it. I just don't think. I think the club obviously are just a bit of a mess in terms of like the run-ins and the contract situations. But I don't think what's been said is that deep in it. I just don't think. Do you know what I mean? Nothing's been stated. If he signs, we'll look silly because do you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, he signs, and if he doesn't sign, I mean, he just doesn't want that in the public domain for now, innit? Let them discuss it, and then when it's done, or if it's not done, we'll find out. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully sooner rather than later. But that's about.
Nah, man, I hear it, man. Els, you see when you, I'll ask you this because I said this to Jerry in my tweet. Does the optics look good from the wider view from a Liverpool fan perspective when? Because Jerry's right. At the end of the day, he just doesn't want it played out in public. Because listen, it could go either way, right? So he doesn't want that to be any narratives to be put out there. I think everyone kind of understands that. But with everything that's kind of been going on with Liverpool Football Club this summer, you know, with the no signings, no contract renewals at this current moment in time, you know, for our 3-star players. As a wider view, can you see anyway why I guess like Liverpool fans might be like, yo, this don't look great, or again, you might be in Jerry's camp where it might be like, hey, it is what it is kind of thing.
I get the both points of view. I mean, it is a bit of a concern just because you always want to show your top players' ambition, especially when you have Jurgen Klopp, who was one of the best managers in the world and want everything at the club go. Such a massive person to lose. And as the players said about Slot, they don't know who he is. So this is peak years for some of these players, especially Salah and Virgil. But of course, Trent as well. I mean, he's 25. We all know that team in white are looking at him, trying to build a super team. But from that
They've
point,
already built a super team. They're just adding more pieces.
It's actually it's just greed at this point. Like it really is. But I don't think there's too much to be concerned with. We have to remember that Trent is a boyhood red. I mean, I'd like to think that he still has the ambition to captain the club. And I think this news about him not wanting to play in the public, I mean, I agree. He's vice captain of the club. He's going to leave it to his agent to deal with. His job is to play football. And I mean, listen, I think more of the concern is Virgil and Salah, in my opinion. I think Trent, of course, is the big one you don't want to lose. But I think Trent, we're more likely to keep Trent down for a couple of years than Virgil and Salah, who are 32 and entering the ending stages of their career. So hear both sides.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, like it's a bit of a like the way I see it, I try to put myself in the shoes of just like a player in it, or like just try like humanize the players, right? He's gone, and obviously, of course, Liverpool have given him a lot, right? But he's given a lot to Liverpool. He's won everything there is to win. Like, let's be honest, he's one of the best players in the world. I'm not saying he's the best, but in terms of like his position, he's one of the best. You could put him in top 3 fullbacks. Do you know what I mean? In the world, top 5 if you wanted to be a bit more. Do you know what I mean? Conservative. He's one of the best players in the world, and Liverpool have allowed, right, a situation where they have not gone and backed these players, the likes of Virgil, Salah, now obviously Alisson, obviously not getting on, but he's getting older. Robertson, obviously, they haven't backed these players and enabled them to achieve what they could have, or haven't given them the best chance to. I don't feel, right. So from a player's perspective, he's sitting there thinking, hold on, we've got a new manager. He needs a 6. Where the hell is the 6? Like, what's the ambition of the club? Like, forget that I'm Scouse, right? Because forget that. That doesn't matter. This is my career. Like, that comes before. I want to win everything there is to win, and I'm not in a situation like Gerrard where I don't know. I haven't won, and you know what I mean, I'm going somewhere to win. I've won everything there is to win at this club. So now it's about what, and like we've done that now for the club, we've done that for the city, we've brought back that glory or somewhat of some, I mean, sense of glory to the club and respect. Yeah, after 35 years, where's the ambition of the club now for us to kick on? Because I've seen us win the Champions League or win the league or win the win the league, and we sign. Who are our signings? Or was it a Champions League? And we signed. Oh no, was it Seth Vandenberg and Adrian?
Yeah, that's something. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's
was Elliot
someone.
or something.
Like,
It was
Elliot, and Seth Vandenberg. Like, what? And Real Madrid, I'm seeing they've won. What did they win last year?
Champions
Everything.
League, La
Champions
Champions
Liga.
League and the
everything.
league.
everything.
Yeah, Bar Copa. And what did they go and do? Who have they signed?
Yeah.
Like as a player, I'm looking. I'm like, why on earth? Like, why on earth would you want to stay? Like, I hit Elsa's point, but yeah, just to be captain of what? Captain of mediocrity. He wanted to be
That's-
captain of a good Liverpool team. To just be captain just for the sake of it, like, it is what it is. Like at that point, like, and on top of that, and that's from a football perspective, just from a financial perspective as well. Yeah. He's looking around the block here, seeing Anthony on 200 bags a week. He's seen Sancho on 250, 300 bags a week. Yeah, he's been putting in performances, breaking assist records, and all of that. And I forget, like, obviously, last couple of seasons, maybe some people think, or the season before last, he wasn't that great and he dropped off. But since he's come to the team, he's been like let's be honest, for an academy graduate, he's been a model professional in terms of like he's won everything. He's not like one to be going out and like he's just been a model professional, right? Like to play for this Liverpool team, like a good egg as well. And you're what being paid less than the going rate for the best players in the league. Why would you want to stay? Imagine you at work knowing like you're a salesman. But you ain't getting paid your commission. You're getting paid like 10%, but everyone else is getting paid 20, 30% commission. Why would you want to stay?
The only thing I'll say on that, when it comes, because something I think about with Liverpool and wages, you know the structure, your agents know the structure. So really, you can't really have that much of a complaint unless it's like dramatically far off what like someone in your kind of position or whatever should be paid, i.e. just as an example, let's say the best player in your position or the best players that you think you're a part of are getting 300,000 a week and you're only getting 50, then yeah, that's dramatic. But if you're getting like, if our budget for someone of that ilk is only 150, then really and truly, if you know that already coming in, how much more can you complain about it? Do you know what I mean? Like it's like
True.
So
True, but the
I don't
difference
know.
is he's not a signing though, is he? He's an academy prospect. So when he's trying to break into the team, so I'm saying when he comes to break into the team, irrespective of whether he knows what the structure is, as a kid you don't care what the structure is, you're just trying to go and play football. But I'm thinking once you're an established pro now you're in control of stuff because you know what value you have to as a Adidas ambassador. You know why Adidas paid you that amount to go and wear that Predator. We know why England decided to go and give you the number. Like you start to understand your value as an individual. Same as Salah, right? So Salah, of course, gets the goals, and those players will always go and get the money. But even like an Alisson as an example, yeah, you understand the structure. But when you start to look at your importance in the side, like a Virgil looks at his importance in the side, or a Salah, you look at like the different Virgils added, he's like, hold on, like Salah's this much ahead of me. Like they've broken the wage structure for Salah. Everyone has to follow suit now. It can't be that gap can't be increasing because what Salah's not just gonna want just an extension. This is gonna be his last big paycheck. He's gonna want a little top up, you know. Like he's going to want to one. So what? Virgil van Dijk are going to stay. Now they're going to want a top up, and you've got to kind of bridge that gap. And that's what happens when you start to move away from a model to keep your best players. Hence why you have to pay big wages. And I think that's one of the reasons why we don't attract players as well. Like how can you attract X player, Y player when you can't match what other players are matching? We could even get Lavias across the door, and they're coming out in line and saying, "Yeah, you know what? I knew Chelsea, but this isn't nice. The wages." Because at the end of the day, like the wages and the contract, it was what gives these players security, innit? That no matter if I'm playing or not, I can go and feed my family.
No. Hey, listen, man. I hear it, man. I hear it. What about yourself, Harris, man? How do you kind of look at this whole Trent stuff? And yeah, man. What's your kind of take on it?
I think it's my opinion is very similar to Jerry's. I don't think too much of it, like how other Liverpool fans may think of it, as in our Trent's not signing is still. We've got Hughes, we've got Edwards. They'll all sort out, or if Trent wants to leave to a Real Madrid, it is what it is. We just have to move on. So I don't really. It's not something I'm thinking about too much. I think the player that I think we really need to get to sign is Virgil, because if Trent wants to go,
Trent.
I'm not saying, because there's not many centre backs out there like Virgil, and I just feel like he's just levels above everyone in his position. And if you're going to replace him, that player may not be as ready to replace Virgil, because like as I said before, he just levels above.
I think
everyone.
anybody's replacing.
And I feel like
I think not
but it's like it's how he leads to defense. And when I've seen Virgil not there and someone's coming to replace him, the defense looks shaky. And I just feel like you just need that presence there to lead the defense. Obviously, Trent's a class player, but I just feel like Virgil's more of the priority for me. I can understand why other Liverpool fans may think, oh no, it's Trent because of age. But I still think Virgil still has a few more seasons in him. So he's the one that I'll probably prioritize. And plus, I don't want to see Virgil at a better team. Like, let's say if he was to leave, he goes to Real Madrid. That's to strengthen them to another level, their defense, because they do have a lack of centre back options. And then if you see Virgil at Madrid with Rudiger, yeah, it's not nice to see.
Liverpool are hilarious, honestly. I'm just thinking about it now. Just some of the things that go through my head it's funny. Let's chat about this Colombian Balassi. Jerry, man, chat to me about your guy, bro. You know what I'm saying? Looks like Barcelona might be ready to activate.
Where do you want me to start regarding my son? I told you guys, it's his dream. You know what I mean? It's his dream. It's where he wants to go. You guys, obviously, you're playing. I hear you, G. I hear you be speaking about my son. I've been at the games. and then listening to GTV and you boying it. Now, you know what it is? This is a mad, like, I don't recall, I don't recall a situation where a player at Liverpool, is being linked with the top dogs, like the top dogs. Like, he's not being linked with like Newcastle and like Leicester and like even like a Napoli, right? He's been linked with Barcelona, and you heard the other day was at Man City, and Man City was someone that, whether it was false, true or not, do you know what I mean? I think there's no smoke without fire. Maybe there's some sniffing around, but Liverpool will never make that deal, so it's just something that, do you know what I mean, Man City aren't going to entertain. But Liverpool fans just want to like get rid of him because they think like, oh yeah, we can go and get someone like not even like way better, but someone they think just had like a better season, in my opinion, or they think is a bit more clinical. And for me, that's just a madness, because I think in terms of his ability, like it's very rare to have a player that can go past players as easy with him. It's not all to do with just like pace. It's not like, oh, I'm faster than you, I'm just going to tap it past you and run. So now I can go past you like just like that, and it could be 2-3 man, and I'm still going to get past you. I think obviously there's a concern about his output in terms of it not being what Liverpool may need or what Liverpool are used to requiring. But goals wasn't really Liverpool's issue. Like it hasn't been. I know you can look at certain games and be like, oh, if you had scored that goal, then we might have won the game. And I agree with that to a certain extent. But goals has never been Liverpool's issue. And it was our ability to control games, and then obviously being hit on the defensive transition. That's what made us lose games. We weren't losing games 1-0 every single game. We were losing games when they were getting like high scoring and stuff. You go and look at the United game as an example. That's one that you know, in the FA Cup that we can just use as a pinpoint example where we just let the game go, innit? We just let the game go because we can't control games as well. I think for what Slot wants to do, I think he's the best winger we've got because I think he's going to be able to I think they're going to get him into positions where he can isolate a man 1v1, and when there's a bit more structure, I think these players flourish a bit more. 60 million, what is that? 60 million euros as well.
I think it's something in and around like between 60-70%.
Yeah, so. I don't know. I'd be looking at like 80 if you're trying to get rid of him. But for me, I'm just not impressed with with what's going to come after that, innit? And it's I don't know about L's, innit? I don't know whether it upsets her spirit, but it's one of those winners.
By the way, I've been using that phrase, you know.
Yeah,
It's
man.
a great phrase, honestly.
But obviously, he's one of those winners where I actually like him as an individual. Like obviously I don't know him, but when he had that the little interview with Gary Neville, I was like, you know what? He's got something about him. Like I like him. He's a character I'd probably want at Liverpool, but not like to sacrifice. For me, one of our more talented wingers, should I say, for him. Like it doesn't make sense because I don't think the gap's that big. I think if you're getting rid of a Diaz, you'd have to go out and get like, you know, like obviously your Mbappes and your Vinicius, of course, that's like a no-brainer. But you'd have to get someone that's like miles better than him, like miles like to kind of,
like a Kavicha or like a Leao.
No, I don't think features or allows miles better than him. I don't think they are. Like I think that like I've seen Lukaku bang goals in the Italian league, and look like a madman, and then come into England and look crazy, innit?
So in your eyes,
for me, it'd have to be like I don't know. There's not wingers like that, innit? So for me, it's like why are we getting rid of it?
Like in terms of the way you kind of see it, because obviously taking out the Mbappes, the Viniciuses, that's like they're obviously on their own kind of thing as wingers, or Mbappe's now a striker, but they're over there, right? So in your eyes, effectively what you're saying is that he's basically the next best thing after those guys. So we can't really improve.
Yeah, because I don't think.
Yeah,
because I don't think the pool of players is that great, innit? Like I think.
I hear it. Yeah,
look, the way I see it, right? 2 seasons ago, no one in their right mind will be even contemplating letting go of Diaz. And every player will tell me Diaz is better than we saw Kvaratskhelia, but we were saying, Diaz is better than him. I remember people saying this. They were saying he's cold, but Diaz is better. I wasn't
one of them. Don't put me in that.
I'm not saying you were, but I'm saying that's what people were saying.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, that's true. I
was seeing him going and tearing up when he first came to the club against Chelsea, saying, "Oh my God, he's the best winger in the league." Like, man was screaming this, right? But one season where I don't know whether it's because Klopp didn't really achieve what we thought he would, but there's like bare animosity towards certain or agendas towards certain players. I think he's one of them, innit? And I think I just don't get it. I just think like next season he could ball out and people will be like, yeah, it was crazy. Like how good is Diaz? And Leao could drop off by a bit, and the gap's not that great. I don't look at them like Leao's a far superior player, even if you think if you were to think he was. So for me to take a gamble on a player like that just doesn't make any sense logically to me. Like if we're upgrading, like Zubimendi, we're upgrading, innit? Like if we're getting someone, we're upgrading. I don't want to go and get someone that's like, yeah, he's all right, but we're letting go of someone. If you're gonna do that, bring in a Gordon, but keep the squad depth, innit? Get rid of Doak and bring in Gordon and let them battle it out. That makes sense to me. I'm all up for that if you wanna, if that's what all the people want to do, or bring in a Kvaratskhelia. But how are you gonna go and bring in like a player? And like, if Gordon has a poor season or performs like he did at Everton, are people going to say that's better than Diaz? If he doesn't score goals, then what? Like that's the way I look at it. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, isn't it?
If, for example, let's just say as an example, let's say we keep Diaz, he performs just like he did last season. Gordon performs just like he did last season. Would you then want to do a swap, or at least get rid of then Diaz to then say, well, we've now had 2 seasons where this player's outperformed you. So obviously we don't know, but on the face of it, you can only go one way. Whereas this player's a lot younger than you and looks to be going the other way. Would you then see it that way? Because then if Diaz would have been here now for like 3 years, I think.
Yeah. So that for me, yeah, that kind of makes a bit more sense, innit? But
substance, like, you need a bit more substance. I get it.
But for me, it's like It's substance, but at the same time, it's like, are people really trying to tell me, right, that like you see like the gap you're saying between like Vinicius and like let me use the gap. You see for me like the gap between Jota and Nunes, yeah, or Tony and Nunes, or like Watkins and Nunes. Are people trying to tell me that the gap between Gordon and Diaz is that big? Then I don't know. Are we watching football differently? Like in my opinion, that's the way I see it. Then that's the way I'm looking at it. Like the gap between like a Leao and thing isn't that. I don't think it's that great. I don't think the gap between like bare wingers like Nico Williams and Diaz, I don't think it's that great. I think the difference is like not being confident and not being confident, and that thing like, and that for me is like something that could change with a manager quick. Like for example, like I don't think like it's people. The way I see it is, I'm hearing people trying to put like Diaz into like the Mikhailo Mudryk like bracket. Like that's like since he's come to the Prem, that's what he's doing. Like he's just been pants, and I don't think he's been that in it personally. But again, I might be.
But okay, you know what? I'll agree with you. But I also think the gap between what Mudryk has been and what he's been is not big. Like it's not light years ahead where I'm like, oh my goodness, he's done that much better than someone like a Mudryk. I think he's done better, but it's almost like, I'll be honest, like the gap that you'll probably say between the levels of a Diaz and a Leao. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of been, he's just been better, but really he's just been here longer. So I reckon Mudryk would probably have had the same level of effect as like a Diaz, because the reality is, I know everyone, I've seen people mention it in the chat about Diaz hasn't had like a full season or whatever, and I hear it. I hear it. The dad thing would be the one. The others, I'm just like, I don't really care. I'll be real. Like football's football. You get injured, it is what it is. I don't actually care about that. Top players, they come back in, they perform. It really is that kind of simple. So the injury stuff, I don't really look at that stuff. It's more the dad thing, because that's like an anomaly of something to never really happen in your life kind of thing. So how you deal with that can be a little bit sketchy. But the injury stuff, I don't care about that. Like for me, I'm expecting you to come back in and think.
I think it's the extent, because if you remember correctly, it was the World Cup, isn't it? And his country didn't even qualify, but he still, let's say if Colombia did qualify, he would have missed the World Cup. And I remember he was supposed to come back for that game against AC Milan. We had a friendly, and then he had a setback, which made him be out for a lot longer. Because I remember there was talk about him potentially being fit for Real Madrid, which he wasn't. And I just feel like that whole period, like that just set Diaz back a long way, because he did start the season off well until that certain number 5 from Arsenal, certain Ghanaian of yours, decided to injure him.
I was trying to think who's number 5 for Arsenal, but okay, you said Ghanaian.
I think he's a quality player, but it's more like the output. Like he doesn't really drop stinkers like that. I think he'll give you like a 6 to a 7 out of 10 mostly. But then it's just the question is, can he put the ball in the back of the net? I just don't think the left-hand side should be touched at all, whether that's someone being sold. I feel like it's the right-hand side that's more of the priority that we should be focusing on, because I don't think our left-wing options are awful. Like I like Gakpo, I like Diaz. I think they're both good players. I think they both could play in the system, and I just feel like it's just not really needed for us to sell Diaz. But I do think we could potentially upgrade him just by a little bit, in my opinion, because as Jerry had discussed before, Leao, I do think Leao's probably better in front of goal. I think he's a better finisher than Diaz. Like if you look at the types of goals Leao has scored, I feel like I don't think Diaz can score as many of those as Leao has. So I just don't really think the left-hand side should be touched. I don't think we should sign a left wing. I don't think we should sell Diaz or Gakpo. I just think he should be left.
No, first. This is a weird one. I can't even lie. What about you, Els? I don't know if you want to touch on it before we
I disagree a bit. I think you guys are being kind to Diaz. I do sympathise with him and his injuries, of course, but I still think the first few months that he had at the club were his best, and he wasn't even settled. I haven't seen Diaz to his best level since that season, and that's where the concern lies. I don't think he's as much of a threat as he should be in games, especially with his talent. I mean, he's 27 years old now. And I find it very interesting that Liverpool are naming a price for him. I don't think the club rate him. I think they see him as very disposable, and I don't think I've seen that with many like starting 11 players that under Klopp, or that they just like say, yeah, this is the price, come and get him. I find that interesting. They obviously with the thing with Anthony Gordon, that's who they want. That's their guy. And listen, I would love to keep Diaz, but it's Liverpool. We're not going to keep both. We're not going to keep him and then buy another winger. We're not going to do that. Unfortunately, it's just not the way we're run. But I do think that the idea of Diaz and his talent is making you guys be a little bit kind, because I look at that Man City game and I know it was just a game, but my goodness me, to not score one of them, it was criminal. And if you look at where we want to go and where we were, and you look at who he's technically replacing Sadio Mane, it's levels, and it's those moments that, let's say he scored one of them, we come out winning the game, who knows? Do you know what I mean? It's these moments that at the top level you need to be on the right end of. And it's not even just goals, it's chances created. There's everything that he could do better with his talent. Like, of course he can skip by players and go past anyone, but how many times did we see that last season? Not many. He wasn't skipping past players. He was holding on to the ball too long. And I don't know if it's a confidence thing, because you look at him against Sevilla, and that's the Diaz we know, but it's...
How many times are you going to realistically see that kind of Diaz?
But do you know what it is for me? Do you know what it is for me? Because I always touches on a point, yeah, is that when he first came to the club, where Klopp kind of alluded to the fact that he didn't tell him anything about the system. He just said, play your game. Like, we're not going to bog you down with what you're doing. Just play your game, and we're going to accommodate to everything else that's going on. And that's the best Diaz that we've seen, which I agree with, right? Obviously, since then, he's had the injuries and stuff, and he's coming in now and having to play within a Klopp system where Klopp he wanted his players to do certain roles. So, like, even like a Jones had to adapt his game. A Wijnaldum had to adapt his game. Loads of players had to adapt their game in order to go and do what Klopp wanted. So with Diaz, for example, it was a lot of off-the-ball runs, right? So he would get the ball and move it, but it weren't moving with the ball. It was obviously in transition, you could go do that, but a lot of it was, can you get the ball and make your runs off the ball? And go back to the first goal we scored, first game of the season against Chelsea, where he's making that Mane out to in run to go and get on the end of a Salah pass. That's very, very Klopp-esque. Like, Klopp, a lot of Mane goals came like that. When we first got Diaz, though, he weren't playing like how Mane was. He was a completely different type of winger where he was getting at his man. He weren't coming inside. And when you go and look at what he does for Colombia and what he done, for example, in that City game when he's running them ragged and he missed obviously those chances, that's what he was able to go and do. And I think under Slot, from what I understand, when he likes to isolate his wingers, I think that's going to suit him much, much, much more. And then I go and look at certain players like Sterling, right? And Sterling under Pochettino, right? Or Sterling under even like when he was at under Pellegrini at City as well. You weren't getting the numbers you was getting under Pep. Now, of course, albeit it's Pep and the system's crazy, but I hope to think that Slot's the type of manager that can also create a system that enables players to get into the right positions where all they got to do is tap it in. And straight away, the numbers start looking different, because I think because of how we've viewed wingers, right, or how we've even viewed fullback, we're viewing certain positions as having to do certain things. So even like in the six that we speak about, he has to have legs and he's got to run, because that's what we done under Klopp, and that's how we knew success, which is great. But this manager's completely different, and he's going to require something completely different from his wingers. Whereas before, we needed a different type of player in certain positions. I think this might suit Diaz a bit more, and that's why I wouldn't be willing, as G said, to just get rid of him this season. Again, if he has a poor season this season and it's just not worked out under two managers, you kind of got to get rid. Like, I get it, irrespective of how much I rate him. But I think that's the type of player where I think, you know what? Oh, he's one of the players where I think under Slot, you're the guy that can actually. Do you know what I mean? I think you could do quite well.
Listen, let's wait and see. I think there is one point I will say. Els did allude to it, and I think it might even be the overarching point, which is when a club is looking for a player in your position and is willing to swap out other players to get a player in your position, they do not rate you the way that we probably would look at someone like a Diaz. And as El said, you are very disposable, like to the point where it's like we probably would just sell you, because the reality is we're going to go and whether we think he's good, whether people rate Gordon or not, that's neither here nor there, I guess. But I just look at it from a club aspect, and I just think from when they were willing to do that deal, and remember, the only reason why we didn't get that deal done is because Newcastle cut it short, just because they didn't need to sell Gordon at that time because they'd already sorted out their PSR. Imagine what that would have looked at. Did you get what I'm trying to say?
But is that because it was early in the window and like I think every player's got a price? Like I go back to like the Salah situation, right? And if Saudi come in for Salah with that amount of money in July as opposed to it being September or late August, do Liverpool go and operate differently because they know they can go and get a player quickly? Where, you know, like the Gordon, the opportunity presented itself to go and get a Gordon, and it's like, if someone goes, we know we can get Gordon straight away. Whereas there's certain other players that they're looking at and they're like, we can't really afford to let them go. So like even like a Virgil van Dijk, I personally doubt if someone came in for Virgil van Dijk right now, like this second with like £100 million bid, I don't think Liverpool will sell. I think they'd rather go and let him go on a free in the summer because they haven't got anyone to replace him with. And I think that's the difference with obviously like a Diaz. Obviously he's not on the level of a Salah, but if someone's coming in with you with that money and you're like, we can take that in, but we've got someone that we can go and get, as you said, that's younger, we can kind of entertain that a bit more. Because it's not like Liverpool have put him out for sale. And remember, Slot's like, it looks like Slot's going to start him. Bear in mind, we've got Gakpo, we've got a few players that can play in that position. You could be a bit creative. Diaz is starting obviously, I assume he'd be starting on the weekend. And it looked like that, in the pre-season games as well. So Slot must be rating them out of what's there. But maybe because there's a solution that Liverpool go and see. Whereas, like, if it was like the Six situation, there's no solution in it, and clearly we see Endo still at the club in it. So I don't know.
That even moves me on to the next thing I wanted to chat about. Obviously, Cody Gakpo obviously talking about, having a conversation with Arne Slot and where he kind of sees him. It's funny because you see this guy.
When did he say this? When did he say this?
This is he did a what do you call it, like a interview. I'll send you the link. But he did an interview.
That's hilarious. He said, obviously, he sees me as a left winger, like duh.
As if like, like where else am I gonna play? No, I hear it. Maybe we're not gonna get the Gakpo where he's playing in 20 million different, positions and stuff like that. But listen, if he sees Gakpo as a left winger, obviously he's seeing what's his name, Luis Diaz as a left winger as well. Like I say, I feel like it's going to be kind of interesting. Big up Honesty, by the way, and big up everyone for the questions. We'll go through them in a second before we get onto our lineups. Gakpo conversation with Slot. Yeah, I spoke to him, and obviously he sees me as a left winger. That's how I think he sees me. We have a lot of players in the front line. I almost feel like, for example, I was looking today at like other teams, and we've got a lot of attackers in our team. So, like Jota, Gakpo, Diaz, Nunes, Salah. If you want to include Dope for it, if he stays here, that's 6. Harvey Elliott, I don't know where, but let's just take him out for a second. That's 6 players that we've got in our attack. Some people are struggling to even get 2, and they're playing with 1 striker and however many in midfield. Like, we rely quite a lot on quite a lot of these strikers. I don't know if that's obviously, I feel like it's a good and bad thing. Like, there's the good points to it. Obviously, you can rotate, when you need to. If one person's out of form, you can always bring in, the next guy, etc., which other teams can't necessarily do. But for stability for some of these players, I don't know. I feel like some of them might look at it and just be like, rah, like he's always playing like Gakpo might have looked at it last season. He's always playing Luis Diaz. Like I'm never getting an opportunity to be able to play left wing. And then when he finally did get the opportunity, like the last like 5 games of the season, you're just like, oh rah, okay, well Gakpo was actually really good. Diaz was nowhere to be seen. So maybe we should have just started, from what people are telling me anyway, maybe we should have started Gakpo as the left winger over Luis Diaz. But then I guess I'm just thinking about it and I'm like, I don't know if it's too much, too many, but I know with Liverpool's injury records, previous record, we kind of need to have about 6 players in our attack because 4 of them are probably going to be injured at any one point. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So, but that was the only bit that I saw when he was talking about this whole seeing him as a left winger, because I also saw the comments that he made about Darwin Núñez, about Núñez being the striker for the team. So then I'm like, so then does Jota just like take down the chin? Like does he not see Jota as the main striker? Like I know first game of the season I don't really care about because it's the first game, so I'm not looking at that first game of the season as that's the team that you're going to go with, because there's not like some players have really just come back. Some players are not really fit enough to even start the season anyway. So he might want to play someone different. He might want to play Gakpo, but he has to choose Luis Diaz because Diaz has obviously come back fit and ready to play, you know, a bit sooner than Gakpo. Whatever the situation might be, we might not even see Alexis McAllister play, but I'm sure most people would have him in our starting 11. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how we do with the whole rotation thing. But I listen, and big up Pops. I hear this thing about there being 60 plus games, right? I do hear it, but I do also look at it and think, I feel like we think in our head that because there's potentially 60 plus, and by the way, there's no guarantee of that, but let's say that there is 60 plus games, I still don't think you're going to want to rotate as much as people think you're going to want to rotate, though. Regardless, like you will have 11 players who have played a vast majority of the games that you've played, and the rest are kind of just there. Yes, they will be subbed. Yes, they'll be played in some games. Certain players might get injured, etc., etc. But I don't think you can be a successful team by rotating too much. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, for example, let's say 38 games in the Premier League. Let's just say Salah plays 38 games in the Premier League. I would then expect, if there was another right winger, I'll be honest, I'm expecting you to play in the Premier League alone, maybe like 20 at most, like, and that is with 12 to 15 of those being sub appearances. If I'm saying Salah's like my main winger in the team, because then the reality is, unless obviously Salah's stinking it up during that period of time, I'm like, I don't really want to rotate this team too much. Like, how are you building any level of cohesion? Like, how is the team able to build, like Liverpool at their best, like 18, 19, 19, 20, when they didn't rotate? As much as we should have had more players, I get it in terms of depth, but in those 2 years, we were at our best because we played the same team constantly, obviously, and they were able to be fit enough to be able to play. It wouldn't have worked out if we were playing Shaqiri's and, you know, all of these kind of divvy-dabby kind of players like on a more consistent basis. It wouldn't have worked out. Yes, they can come in the odd game, yeah, here and there. One game here, Origi might play Barcelona as an example. Shaqiri, the Man United game, but we don't see Shaqiri again for months. Do you get what I'm trying to say? We might not see him for ages, and I feel like that for me is where I'm like, yeah, I prefer that, to be honest with you. I want you to have you can have the options, but the reality is you're not going to rotate. I feel like this myth about rotation, like I feel like everyone thinks that everyone's going to play 60 games this season. Like everyone should play 60 games. Like, and obviously, as you're saying, Pops, like we got 5 subs. I'm like, you don't mean you got to use all 5 subs though. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You don't have to use all the subs. I get it, maybe last 10 minutes, but then I'm like, well, last 10 minutes, take off Virgil van Dijk. Let him get a rest for the last 10 minutes, but we know that's not going to happen. So then where's the centre-back who then comes in for him, who's going to maybe get those extra minutes or those extra game times and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I just think, I just think there's a little bit of a myth with the whole rotation thing, but let's see how the season kind of pans out. Let's see, you know what I mean, in regards to that. Moving on to, obviously, we got Bobby Clark, but I don't really want to touch on that. He's left now. There was these slot quotes. I just screenshotted this bit here from what he was talking about. So this is him talking in that interview. From what I've seen from the boys in pre-season and also in training sessions, they sometimes have to be a bit better aware of the risk reward. And by that, I mean sometimes they take so much risk on a difficult ball that can only lead 5 meters up the pitch. And if you can put someone in front of the goalkeeper, take as much risk as you want, but they sometimes tend to over risk simple passes. I'm not sure if they've learned it, but most of them are quite young. Young players always want to go to goal in every second of the game, which is sometimes a good thing to do. I laughed at that for many reasons, but that's just my Klopp agenda just coming through regardless. When we look at that, Jerry, in terms of, obviously that's just a snippet, by the way, guys, go and watch the full thing. I don't want you to take anything out of context, but just reading that bit there, where him talking about the way in terms of how he kind of used to play and the way that he kind of wants the team to play, does that give you more encouragement for the football that you might see this season, or
more encouragement? I would say, to be fair, more encouragement, because the way I'd see it is like, obviously it's the style I've wanted to go and see. Like, I think the measured approach is always more conducive to winning games. I think Klopp's style of football, for some, it's very, very entertaining. It's end to end, and obviously it's proven that it's worked in terms of being able to compete, but being able to win consistently. I think that's where it has a difference, and I think he's proven to be quite, like, do you know what I mean? Sort of proven to be quite analytical about what he likes about Klopp's style of football and what he likes about Liverpool, but also where he finds errors and where he sees the errors in training and little things like that. And Liverpool, we speak about forcing the ball a bit too much. Trent sometimes playing a Hollywood pass when it's not necessary, as opposed to just retaining possession. And I think that's going to obviously bode well for the season if they can improve on that. The question is, are we going to be able to? Has he got the players to? Can the players go and, from being in a culture where everything's been 100 miles an hour, to go and change that it is difficult, because someone like a Bradley, he's been in the academy since Klopp's been there, and he's been groomed to play a certain way, and even he rushes the ball sometimes. Elliott, same thing. All these youngsters, the same thing. Jones has had to adapt his game to break into the Liverpool team. Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas like the slot style of football probably suits him more. He had to completely change the type of player he was to go and even get a chance in the Liverpool team. So it will be interesting to see how it goes. But yeah, intriguing comments from the gaffer.
Harris, man, what are you looking forward to the most with slot style of play this season, man?
I just want to see if it's effective. Like, I like the patterns of play and everything, but really and truly, I would like to see results along with the patterns of play. If it's like
okay, what if you don't see results? What if you don't see results, but you can see a clear style of play? Like, you can see exactly what we're trying to do, but it's just, I don't know, we might not have the player in said position. Would you still accept that?
I would accept that, because it's quite similar to Postecoglou's situation. Like, we saw good patterns of play from them. We saw excellent football from them last season, and we could say, okay, there's certain players in there that doesn't suit the system, and then he has a summer to go out and get the players that he wants to go and fix the system. Now, if Slot does that, let's say, let me pick a player. Let's say Konate. Let's say Konate is starting centre back throughout this season, and he doesn't exceed the expectations to play the system. Yeah, I know we've got Kwanzaa, but let's pretend Kwanzaa's not there. We may have to go out and get a proper ball playing centre back that's comfortable in possession, can break lines. So yeah, it's more about this season. He has his little, he has a chance, and then next season, if the results are still not there, then we have to talk about him potentially leaving. So that's my opinion on Slot. But I would like to see good football, of course, and I would like to see results.
Nah, man, I hear you. What about you, Els, man? What are you looking forward to, kind of, in terms of the style of Slot, for this season, and what is more in? I know results are key, by the way, guys. You know me, I'm a results kind of guy, but is it also probably equally as important for us to have that clear style of play, and especially a style of play that you might enjoy?
To be honest, I've really liked what I've seen so far. I actually think we do have more players for this style than Klopp's, funny enough, especially the players that we got last season. Because you look at the likes of Gravenberch, people didn't even want Gravenberch playing a minute last season. So the fact that I've seen him in a lot of like starting 11s or predicted 11s tells you a lot. And I've been saying for ages, why doesn't Klopp try a double pivot, especially with these players? So I'm really looking forward to that. And I've always said that it will really help, especially from a defensive point of view, because especially defensively, Slot, you can see a clear like double pivot rather than having that one player isolated on their own. And I thought it was just suicide, especially when you have someone like McAllister who's so little and obviously doesn't cover the space as well. So just from that point of view, especially defensively, I'm looking forward to it because we know we've got the talent attacking wise when they want to put the ball in the net, but it's just from a defensive point of view. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see how we'll build up, and also I've heard like the different kind of stuff that he's got them doing with Rondo. He doesn't want all these back heels and things. He wants them to be very like simple. Yeah. So it will just be interesting to see how his style of play translates to different teams. Like going away to, I don't know, even Ipswich. Let's see. Let's just see.
No, it's true because if you lose now, all of this nice football.
Exactly.
No one's gonna care.
Let's see how it will compare to Pep's football and Arteta's, like, because obviously that's who we're competing against, but also equally can this style of play obviously beat the teams that we should be beating. So it will be interesting to see how the players kind of adapt to that. But I think they'll do well.
No, I hear it. Guys, big up everyone, by the way. For those who are in, there's over 40 of you in here. Make sure you are smashing the like. We will now, after we've done the Liverpool news now, all of that rubbish, we're going to now talk a little bit about the game. I'll give you guys, everyone on the panel, their starting lineup, or their predicted lineup for the game and their score prediction. And then, we will go into that. But firstly, I will go through some of the questions that have been put out there. Big up Jamie in the chat, man. Hope you're doing well, bro. Let's get to the first one. Big up Enzo. Love it, by the way, everybody. Love for getting me to 1.5k. We are on the road to 2k. As I said, when we get to 2k, I will do membership at then. For now, we're just easy, man. We're just chilling. But when we get to 2k, yes, I will do membership. Someone did ask me that earlier on. Honestly, asking here, I'll give this to Harris. He said, we saw reports saying Trent will be the best paid player, but why don't we hear nothing about Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah? Isn't it better to give them a new deal so when you see you get some, so when you sell, you get some cash back? I think that's what you're trying to say. Give them a new deal so when you sell, you get some cash back. Effectively, just asking why I'm assuming, yeah. Honestly, you might need to write that one again. Question: we saw reports saying Trent will be the best paid player, but we're not hearing anything about Virgil van Dijk and Mo. Okay. So then I'll add on to that. Why do you think that we're hearing nothing really about Virgil and Mo, but we have heard at least, would I say, somewhat something in the past about, Trent potentially being the best paid player, at this football club?
I'm not sure, because if you look at the comments from Virgil, he said a couple of times, I haven't been offered the new deal or anything. Then he's gone and said stuff like, I'm happy to be at the club, I want to be here. He's just been named captain like last year. So I don't think he would want to leave. But I've said it before, like earlier this stream, I don't think too much about the contract situations because I just feel like at least two of them will sign. I think it's only one player that I feel like he might cut. So I don't look at it and just think I'm not losing sleep over it, I should say. The player.
Yeah, who like out of the three?
I feel like it's Trent. I feel like it's Trent.
You think he cuts or stays?
I think he cuts.
All three. Okay, fair. No, I've never. You know what's mad? You're the first person I've heard say that.
I feel like it's him or Salah. But I'm saying I think it will be Trent because he might be looking at that Real Madrid super team. Yeah, I think. Carvajal's getting older. I'm not saying he's just going to go straight into the team start with Carvajal because I don't think that's realistic based on how he's been playing recently. And and Modric doesn't start anymore, so he's the captain. So who knows? But with Salah, where's he going to go? I don't think he want to go Saudi. yet. There could be like a PSG in for him. I don't think a Bayern Munich they just signed Elise. They didn't really need to strengthen that right hand side. Barcelona, they got Yamal. I don't think they want to. They'd want to hinder his form because Salah's going to want. He's going to want to start. He's not going to want to get benched by a youth who's not even an adult yet.
Watch Chelsea go on Saturday, bro. Chelsea are just stupid like that.
7-year contract.
Yeah, well, he would be fine with a 7-year contract on 400 bags a week. Yeah, I'm taking that and off.
Virgil.
That's a real level security.
I think Virgil can go play anywhere. I think I would say Barcelona. They need another central defender. I think Real Madrid. I said earlier. Bayern Munich as well. Yeah, there are teams that could use our players, but I just feel like I have a feeling that Trent's gone. And let's not act like Bellingham isn't in Trent's ear saying, "Oh, come to Madrid, to play with me, Mbappe, Vinny." You won't. Plus, he won't need to face Vinny anymore, only in training. So it's a bit of a win-win for Trent. So yeah, I think this is Trent. I think we'll see Trent out the door, possibly.
Nah, man. I hear it, real honesty. Question: do you guys think the old style of play hindered the wingers? Because sometimes you saw Lucho looking in the box and there's literally no one there. Jerry, I will ask you, seeing as he's your guy.
Hindered some, benefited others. I think it's unfair to say it hindered like our wingers, just to say that as a collective. I think wingers are different, innit? I think like Jota will probably struggle to play on the wing for a slot team because they're not the profile winger he really looks at. But then at the same time, like a Diaz might benefit from that. Vice versa. You kind of look at it from a different perspective. Jota on the wing for Liverpool was a valid option for a long while. Like for a long time, people didn't want to see Jota down the middle because his hold-up play wasn't like Bobby's. He wasn't like this. He couldn't do this like Bobby. So just play him on the wing and he can make his out to in runs. So it just depends, man. It just depends. I think we just got I think obviously looking up and obviously Diaz not seeing anyone there. That's just situational, isn't it? I think that's because I think it was just a bit disjointed. You've got Nunes that's supposed to be in the box, but he's not in the box. Salah's not used to getting in the box maybe from certain areas because he's trying to get on the ball himself. And then he's been told to go and do that. And because Nunes isn't in the box and he's outside the box, it looks a bit mad. But I just think that's because of a certain striker more so than Klopp's tactics, if I'm being honest.
The fact that you said certain striker like 5 times and not mention his name once is hilarious. I'm going to throw this question to you, Els. Big up the error, by the way. You might be new in the chat, but if you are so, big up to yourself. He would love to hear from the panel. Curtis Jones or Ryan Gravenberch to start, based on how you've seen them play in the double pivot. In fact, don't answer that question because we'll get into your lineup in a second. But big up, by the way, Diero. Big up, Sweet Angel. Again, we will go through that now when we do talk about the teams. I don't want to spoil it. I want these guys to just kind of explain why they've chosen what they have chosen. Let's get to the game, man, so that we can head out shortly. So, Liverpool versus Ipswich. By the way, from what I've seen this, the last 5 managers have not won on their opening game in the Premier League. None of the last 5. So you've got, obviously at the top left is Jurgen Klopp, by the way. Top right is Brendan Rodgers. I remember that 3-0 game that Brendan Rodgers had. I remember sitting there thinking, Liverpool, what have you done? Like, why did you hire this guy? Like, we're losing 3-0 to West Brom, you know. West Brom.
That's actually a disgrace, honestly.
But then Kenny Dalglish, when he lost 2-1 to Blackpool, I know we were in a bad era. I know we were in a real bad state at that moment in time. But I also remember sitting there thinking, like, you lot are actually embarrassing me. Like I can't walk around and tell people I support Liverpool. We just lost fucking 2-1 to Blackpool. Charlie Adams.
Why do you think Liverpool copped Charlie Adams?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was scoring from halfway lines and doing like some crazy stuff, like scoring from corners and bro, it was ridiculous. Obviously, Roy Hodgson, at least he got a 1-1 draw against Arsenal. At least he got that. And then Rafa Benitez, obviously 1-1 away to Spurs, man. That's crazy. Kenny Dalglish and hey, listen, let's put it this way. Let's hope that he's the first one to win in his opening game, because we cannot continue that kind of trend. That's very bad, when I come to think. But when I look at all of these guys and their teams that they've had at that moment in time, surely, they've not had a team like how Slot's got it. So I'm hoping that it should change, in the future. But we'll get into that. Anyway, taking a look, and I just wanted to quickly talk about Ipswich kind of like style of play and stuff like that before we look at our own lineups. This has obviously been what they've been doing throughout the preseason. So you can see they beat Nice just recently, beat Hoffenheim. They lost 2-1 to Fortuna. They beat Shakhtar Donetsk 1-0. They've had a calm kind of preseason, if I'm being honest with you, in terms of what they've been trying to do. Obviously, they've signed in Amari Hutchinson as well. That's one player I'm really intrigued to see how he does in the Premier League, because I think he's a good player. But Premier League is a lot different than the Championship, so that might just be one of those kind of things. But you can see they switch between styles in the preseason as well. So they play 4-2-3-1 at times, and they also play like a 3-4-3. Again, that's just on paper. When they're actually playing, it's probably quite similar to what they originally like to do, which is they're quite a high turnover team. That's something that I've noticed about them. They got quite a lot of they've got a lot of turnovers that they've had from last season, and also as well when they were in League One as well, coming up from that league. So I think when we're looking at a team such as Ipswich, I do think just be a little bit where I'm not saying, by the way, we're gonna lose or whatever. Just be, would I say, more respectable. I think people just I put Ipswich, by the way, to get relegated, because I do think that over a course of time, their quality will tell. But there's certain teams that you will just face that just their style of play and what they do, it's like your kryptonite. Just unfortunately, you're obviously better, but it could just be, the kryptonite. So I think Ipswich, for me, fall into that kind of.
It could be like a Luton game from last season when we're expecting to pop them off the park. But really and truly, let's be real, that game was so hard to break down Luton. And we did have chances, but in terms of build up, we couldn't pass through them. We had to keep going long and pray that Mo Salah gets his touch, right? Or I think it was Jota played left wing. We're just kind of praying that they kind of do something. So going into this game, Ipswich, I'm not going to say too much because I want to get into the 11s and then say what I have to say. We just have to be cautious because this is away to a ground that have good fans. They're going to be loud. It's 12:30 kickoff. They're going to be up for it. If it was at Anfield, then I would have a different opinion. But it's away, and our away form can be dodgy at times. It's kind of like we just fall asleep at certain away grounds. So we definitely need to keep our heads up and just stay locked in.
Without further ado, then, here is Elsa's lineup for the game. She's gone with a 4-2-3-1.
Mm-hmm.
Talk us through it, man. Talk us through it. Obviously, your team. You talk us through it.
So I feel like this is the lineup, pretty much. Yeah, this is the lineup that he played against Sevilla in the last preseason game. I just thought they played well. Not perfect, but I think there were some nice combinations. They look comfortable with each other. Of course, there's things that can be improved. But I'd like to continue with players that have played together and they look confident and comfortable. I'm a bit worried again because I don't know, Liverpool away. I watched some of their away games, of course, last season. Liverpool don't like a story. They don't like whenever there's a story, it worries me. And this is Ipswich coming back to the Premier League, and goodness knows how long, facing a Liverpool side. Yeah, they're going to come with loads of energy. They're going to be direct, and of course, that is where you worry. But the way Slot plays now, of course, we're not going to go gung ho. So hopefully, we're a little bit more structured.
Less emotional.
Yeah, hopefully we should beat this team very comfortably, especially with the players and the ability on the pitch. But it's tough. Like, I just hope that, of course, I would love Kanate to come back in, but I don't know what kind of rhythm he's in at the moment. Don't really know what's going on with his fitness. Of course, he's been saying he's not been feeling his best, so Kwanzaa has to be in there. Robbo, of course, is injured, so Simicast has to be in there. So I don't think it's our most talented lineup, but I think this should do against Ipswich, hopefully. And with Jota up front, I'm confident. Yeah, so it's fine. He'll get a chance to score.
I hear it, man. I hear it. We'll go through the score predictions afterwards. I'll get everyone's score prediction for the game. Who's the next one up? Paris, man. I think yours is exactly the same, I believe, as Elder's. Yeah, but yeah, talk to why have you kind of gone for this lineup?
I'm gonna go back to last season watching Ipswich. I used to watch their games, and I'm looking at their players. I'm looking at their pivot. I think it's Morsi, and there's someone else whose name I can't pronounce. Yeah, and those two in particular, they ain't great on the ball. And I'm looking at someone like Szoboszlai, who's good at pressing. He's aggressive. He's gonna be in your face. I feel like our midfield that I've picked definitely can get the better of Ipswich in terms of how we want to play, in terms of like popping the ball around them, being aggressive. Yeah, we can't respect Ipswich at all, and I feel like we do respect a lot of teams when we're off the ball. Like, if you remember the United game, the amount of times we were respecting Kobe Mainoo just to drift past Endo, Szoboszlai, McAllister. I don't want to see that, and I just feel like how we're playing now, the football, I feel like we can really get into Ipswich's face. So I feel like Simicast, some people may have raised their eyebrows seeing Simicast. I just feel like Simicast is much better suited to the system rather than like a Robertson, who I would say is not as disciplined as Simicast. I think Simicast is a better footballer than him. Not saying he's a better defender. I just feel like he's just a better footballer in terms of when it comes to crossing, his output. Yes, Robertson has more assists, but it doesn't mean he's the better crosser. So I think this team will do the job. I'm obviously looking at Gravenberch and McAllister to do the build up. And I'm going to go back to someone's comment who said Gravenberch or Curtis Jones. I haven't got my full trust in Jones yet after those few preseason games. So like, if you look at how we play, our centre backs are going to be quite wide. They're not going to be close to the goalkeeper from how it used to be under Klopp. But in this system, like very similar to the Zerbies, the centre backs are going to be out wide. They're going to look to try and bounce the ball, bring the opponent in, and then probably pop a ball out wide to a fullback and get on the counter. But the case is with Curtis Jones, he's either taken too long on the ball or his touch may just be off and he's kind of chasing his own touch. And then once someone pinches the ball, because the centre backs are so wide, they're going to take long to get back, or they may not get back in time, and then it's a goal, let's say. So I don't have my full trust in him yet. I've seen Gravenberch play well in two games, one against United, one against Sevilla, and I feel like he's done well. So I don't think he deserves to be dropped. But I do have one question: who would you rather be part of the first phase, and who in the second phase?
I will go through that when I go through my team. Jerry,
Your
let
11.
me hear your team, bro. Let me hear your team, bro.
Yeah,
You've
man.
gone obviously like small, well, it looks like a 4-3-3, but it could have been 4-2-3. I don't know how you
Yeah,
played it.
4-3-3, 4-2-4. And for me, it doesn't really matter because
Mm.
the principles are the same in it. If you need two players dropping in, I think there needs to be a bit of flexibility in terms of who does that in it. I think that's what will kind of will enable Liverpool to bypass any press because it makes it's very, very like easy to press and defend if you know, all right, it's Curtis Jones or McAllister's coming deep to get the ball and he's waiting there to get on it. I think that's just quite naive to go and do that. You got to be a bit more creative in terms of what pockets you pick up and how you get on the ball. I personally, um, I just I don't see in the slot team. I think there's a bigger. I can see a future for Jones playing in one of those deeper roles for slot. I don't see that for Gravenberch. I think Gravenberch is someone that he's more of a stopgap, and yeah, he did well in those preseason games. But I think if you're gonna again for me, this is Jones this season. It's got to be. If not, then he's got to be kind of moved on because it'll be a second manager where he hasn't been able to kind of establish himself or establish a position in the team that's his. He's kind of like plays on the right, plays on the left. If he's on form, he plays, but if he's not, he comes out. And I think he needs to kind of establish himself. I think with Jones, his positioning, I agree. I think there's been a couple of times in preseason where he's held onto the ball for too long, or or his touch has been quite poor and stuff. But I think that's something that we have to kind of work through with the players, unless we get a ready-made six. I think that's going to be an issue that Gravenberch does. I think that's going to be an issue that Endo, Jones, any player that we really play there, even happened with McAllister. Like, do you know what I mean, when he was playing deep there, because they need to get used to that role. And I think, I don't know, I've seen Jones, yeah, it was for the under 23s, of course, or under 21 Euros, but I've seen him play in that role and the types of passes that he can pick out, I think are top, like if he can get into that role. It's just about whether we trust him or whether Slot trust him to go and do that. And I think I'd want to go and see him there and see how he develops in that role because I don't see him playing that wide for Slot and I don't see him playing in like the number 10 role or kind of a more advanced role for Slot either. I think it'll be one of the deeper roles. So yeah, I just gone with Jones. Yeah, I trust the guy, man. I trust him. I think Gravenberch is for me. He's the one that I know he played well in 2 preseason games, but I wasn't really impressed last season, man. Like I wasn't impressed last season at all, and that's still in my mind. Maybe that's just again my problem. Again, I'm just a fan, but I just can't get rid of some of the performances and him just not tracking back and not showing effort. You know, like the basics of football. That are just like, if you're not doing this, then how can I trust you to like? Do you know what I mean? Like in other aspects of the game. So. But look, it could very well be Gravenberch as well. But apart from that, I think, yeah, it's the same team as everyone else, I believe, because everyone's put Tsimikas. Well, I think Els, you put Tsimikas as well, didn't you?
Yeah, the back five is the same for everybody, and the attack is the same. Everyone's got the same.
Okay. Yeah, so it's literally just the Jones. So it's just my preference in it. I just think his
No,
positioning, getting on the ball a bit better. That's about it. There's not that much in it, to be fair.
no. Listen, man, it's everyone's teams, man. It's everyone's team. I think obviously I've gone with again the same as everyone else. I think mine is the difference of Elliot in terms of Jerry's Elliot for Curtis Jones. And I think what Jerry mentioned about Curtis Jones is the same thing for Elliot. It has to be your season, bro. Like at some point, you need to start breaking into being a first team regular. It can't be that these type of players are gonna. I mean, you if you don't mind being known as a squad player, then you can stay. Like I've got no beef if you don't mind that. But then questions about do you know what I mean, your whole ambition and etc. etc. start to come into play. I think a lot will depend then on how much. I guess we will rotate in terms of how many minutes these guys are going to get. We know that Jones, he's less reliable than Harvey Elliott, let's put it to you that way, in terms of his fitness over the period. I'm not going to call him injury prone, so to speak, but he's definitely less reliable. So, again, maybe the manager might look at that in terms of how he's going to be able to get this level of cohesion if he's got a player who's a bit less reliable. So I look at Harvey Elliott and I think, I know it's only the preseason, but when I look at a position that I don't feel we're as strong as people think we are, which is that kind of number 10 floating position. I don't think we've got players who could like potentially play like Szoboszlai and McAllister, but I don't look at that as an area for them where I'm like, yeah, that's where your best work. Like Szoboszlai for me is just not a number 10. Like I just don't see him as that type of player. Like I just not the same way as I would see Elliot or an Erdegaard or Florian Wirtz, like players who can just float in and around, and when they pick up these pockets of spaces, they're able to then influence what goes on further up, further up the field. And I think Elliot, I feel like he would want to play that kind of role. He can drift out to the right if he wants to, where he can then, double up against their fullback with Mohamed Salah. He can do the 1-2s of Salah on that kind of side, but then he can also drift to the other side. He can also drop back into like a midfield 8, kind of position. Like he's able to just float in and around, and I feel like that's better for his kind of game. And then for me, the other two, Szoboszlai and McAllister, I just feel like with those two, if we're not signing anybody, I'm more comfortable with those two being in my double pivot than I am really anybody else. Gravenberch, I'm not so convinced, as Jerry was saying, about off the ball work. At least Szoboszlai, he does provide us with off the ball work really well. So I'd much prefer to have. He's probably the best that we've got in there in terms of off the ball work. And McAllister, for me, if I had to pick one player in the team, he'd be the one that maybe the idea from what I've seen at Brighton, maybe that's why I think of it. But I'm hoping that he can bring that back where he's comfortable picking up. Obviously, I saw a little bit when he was playing for Liverpool last season in the 6. But I just feel like that kind of build-up that we were trying to do, as well as him just not being able to do it anyway, it just wasn't working for him. I feel like this is a different type of build-up that we're trying to do from the back. So I don't mind McAllister potentially. That 3, I think, is just going to rotate anyway. Like, I don't think it's going to be quite like, okay, this player is going to play number 6. This one's going to, I think they're all going to just rotate like we saw with Szoboszlai, Jones, and McAllister in the game against Real Betis. They just kept rotating. Like, Szoboszlai was the one who was mostly there, but he kept rotating with McAllister. He kept rotating with Curtis Jones. So it could be any one of the 3 in those kind of positions. So yeah, that's kind of why I've gone with that lineup.
Quick one then, yeah, because you're saying that obviously you don't see Szoboszlai as number 10. Obviously that's someone that you had stocks in. Obviously when he was at Leipzig, you were excited when he came in, and obviously you told us he was that type of, he was a 10. Would you say that since coming to Liverpool, what type of profile is he now? Is he like a Wijnaldum, a Goretzka? Like what type of midfielder is he now? Because we thought, I don't know, I don't want to speak for Els and Harris, but we thought we were getting this number 10, this all-action kind of like Dani Olmo-esque player, but it seems like he's not that. He's something else, which obviously can still be good, but just isn't as you said, doesn't float around and pick up pockets and that type of thing.
Well, that's the thing, because he never did it at RB Leipzig. He never really floated around and picked up pockets. Like, it was almost like he was playing a hybrid of an 8-10 position anyway, kind of thing. Okay. So that's why, obviously, I hoped for Liverpool that if he was going to come in, it wasn't going to be under the assumption that you do basically what you've been doing effectively throughout this whole kind of time. And I just think the way that, and I'm only guessing, the way that Slot White is kind of playing, when I'm looking at it on the face of it, I'm just like, you don't suit, like, and I said this on Enza stream the other day, Szoboszlai, you're going to be a player, I think, that you don't fit anything specific. You're just like a jack of all trades, master of none. That's the phrase I was looking for. You're one of those kind of guys. Like, I'm not saying you can't play in the number 10. Obviously, he can play, and he's played there obviously before. But is that the kind of number 10 that Slot wants? I don't think so. I feel like he'd much prefer to have like an Elliott style of a number 10, someone who can do that role, just maybe a bit more fluently than someone like him. But then in the midfield, if I put him in this position that I've got him here, I don't want to put him here, by the way. I don't actually want to play him here. Unfortunately, though, my options are not really popping. So I've got not much choice to really pick between, okay, let's play this guy over here, that guy over there. I've got no 6 that I trust, really. Hence why I said I'd rather you just rotate the midfield because I don't trust any of them at all. Jones, Gravenberch, McAllister, I don't trust any of them. So I'm just like, you know what? I would rather then, if that's the case, I don't trust you guys defensively. I'm just gonna have to just have it like a rotation midfield, and Szoboszlai, you're gonna have to be the energy because clearly you're the only one with energy in this midfield. So guess what? I'm just gonna have to use that to some type of advantage. But at least then I've got ball players in Harvey Elliott and McAllister. For Harris's question that he asked me before about the second phase, guess what? If you're in this midfield, then my second phase would obviously just be a pick between Szoboszlai and Harvey Elliott. Simple as, and I'm more comfortable with those two being in the second phase, of things.
So would we say then, or like Els and Harris, would you guys say that to get the best out of Szoboszlai, he'd have to almost become the main man because he's this kind of jack of all trades type of midfielder where he needs to be the main guy for everything to run through and where he can do whatever he wants, and that's when he's at his best. And otherwise, you're just going to be a good athlete and a decent player just to have in the team.
I think the best of Szoboszlai. Go on.
No, I said I feel so because he really lost himself. I feel like at the end of last season, he really fizzled out majorly. Games really passed him, and I was just thinking, what happened to this player who seemed like the main guy at the start of the season, and then it was just like when it came down to it, probably because of the injury, he kind of came back. Maybe things were a little bit different. And he just couldn't quite pick up the form. So I'm still kind of trying to figure out where best he is because people are telling me wing, people are telling me 10, people are telling me midfield. I don't know. Hopefully.
But from when you just said that, like wing 10, like how can someone have just changed so quickly in one season where now I don't even know where you play? Like that's weird.
Yeah, because at the start of last season, I'm pretty sure, let's say 4 games in, you would say, okay, let's just keep him as an 8. Now we're having discussions of is he a winger? Is he a 10? Is he a 6? I've heard people say he's a 6. But in my opinion, to get the best out of him is in those half spaces. So on paper, it could be a 4-2-3-1 with him as the 10, but really and truly, you're seeing him in the half spaces making those runs because he does make a lot of runs into the box to get cutbacks for like a Jar or a Nunez. It's quite similar how De Bruyne plays for City because City really love to utilize the half spaces, and I feel like that's more Szoboszlai's. That's more of his game. But then again, you can look at him and think he could play just a bit deeper. Like, do you remember the Wolves game, the 3-1 one at the start of last season? Second half, he was playing a lot deeper. I wouldn't say as a 6, but I would say he was more in a pivot, and he did play really well because he does have that time on the ball to pick out his options. But if you really want to see the best of him, like at Leipzig, where it was more of a 4-2-2-2, he was in that half space, in that right 10, making runs, getting cutbacks into the box. So if you want to get the best out of him, I think that's how we should use him in this system. Because you see in the Sevilla game, he was picking up more positions on the right side where Salah is, but also making runs into those half spaces between the fullback and centre back to get balls into the box. So I think that's his best position, really, how you should use him.
No, honestly, I don't even know what to realistically do with him, man. Because Jerry's right. Like when he first come, I was like, bro, like, you know what? When he gets here, we're gonna see. Yeah, like I thought anyway. Klopp's gonna play him in that. Remember, because we were still playing that box kind of midfieldy thing where Trent was playing in the inverts. So I thought, Klopp's just gonna continue that next season. Oh my goodness, he's just signed Szoboszlai. That's the perfect guy for a box kind of midfield, right? Like you would think so anyway, like or just on the face of it, because of the type of player that he is. It's quite similar to what RB Leipzig are doing in terms of how they got their 4-2-2 playing with him, Javi Simons, at the time. Like, this is gonna work. And then man just plotted him in Henderson's position. And I was just like, bro, like, I don't like you've done that. I know why you've done it, because you need to help Trent. So I'm like, nah, I don't want my system built around Trent. Trent's not that type of player. Like, I don't think you can build a system around that type of player in that type of position. I don't think it works like that. And then remember, you're talking about Szoboszlai and Henderson. Henderson, by the way, was actually, he had technique, by the way. I know people like to, he did actually have technique. But in comparison to, say, someone like a Szoboszlai could do quite a lot of things in the offensive third better than, Jordan Henderson. So I kept thinking, all you're doing is just negating all of the attack, really, for Szoboszlai for Trent. And I'm just like, but don't you want more? I don't know, man. Obviously, clearly he didn't want that. So it is what it is, isn't it? Like, he's gone now. So, it's just one of those kind of things. But yeah, man, I just think that Szoboszlai, for me, less talking, more action. Spent a lot of time talking last season about what he wanted to do and how good he thought he was and all of these kind of different things. I hear that, and that's great. Some people like that. Me, I'm a guy of action. I beg you, just go and do what it is you said that you're going to do, please. So when you do come back from injury, don't stink, because you absolutely stunk for most of that season. And that, it hurt me to say, because I think he's actually a dope player. I've still got stocks in him as we speak. I still think he can come good. But to see the way you dropped off to the point where I was like, I don't want to see you in the team anymore, that speaks volumes, considering I was dying for us to sign you, when you came in, and you started off the season, quite well. But then for you to have this tail off towards the back end, it was horrible to watch, man. Like, I see him moaning when he's sitting on the bench. Klopp's putting him on the bench, subbing him. I see him moaning. I'm like, but you stink right now. What do you want Klopp to do? He can't keep you on. It's unfair on Harvey Elliott. It's unfair on a Jones. It's unfair on Endo, a Gravenberch. These guys all deserve to play as well. Klopp has to be fair in that regard, especially when we've got the numbers, to be able to do so. So, listen, man, I think, like, for someone like Szoboszlai, like, this is a big season for him. But then again, Jerry said it's a big season for Curtis Jones. I've just said it's a big season for Harvey Elliott. There's only 3 midfielders that we can have, guys. I've just named 4. We've still got Gravenberch in there as well. So someone's not having a good season. That's all I know. That's all I know. I think it's,
what made it worse with the whole Szoboszlai thing is the chat that he was given as well. I think that's
what I was saying. Yeah.
That's one of the because like he was saying something like, "Oh, I can be a lot better than this." Then show it then, if you can be a lot better. Because I think he even said something like, I'm not saying he said it word for word, but someone asked him about the comparisons to Gerrard, and I think he said that he agrees with something. And we didn't really see much of him towards the end of the season. But like I said, like you said, you have stocks in him, and I have stocks in him as well. I think he is a good player, and I think he does have potential. And he's not even like 27; he's 23. So he does have that time to work his way back into the good books. And let's hope he has a good season.
Let's hope so, man. Let's go on to our prediction for the game. We'll start off with you, Els, and then Jerry, and then Harris. Els, scoreline.
If we don't concede first, we'll win. So
you still got that PTSD from last season, Jesus.
Honestly, it's okay. I'm gonna go 2-1. I think it's gonna be close.
I hear it. Jerry, man. Scoreline. Guys, put your scorelines in the comment section, please. Is Jerry there? I don't know. Is it? We'll go to you, Harrison, and I'll come back to Jerry. What's your scoreline prediction for the game, man?
Literally, when you just asked me that, I've just seen Ipswich are unbeaten in their open league matches in each of the 10 past seasons.
10? Right? 10. That's a lot of seasons.
Winning 6 and drawing 4 since losing 2-1 to Reading in the Championship in 2013.
Were they home or away that game?
I don't know, but it's kind of hindered my prediction. And then obviously it says Liverpool have never lost a Premier League match at Portman Road, winning 3 and drawing 2. But I'm looking at this team, that we have now, and I've seen the football. I'm seeing the good patterns of play. I'm seeing the forwards that we have. I'm seeing number 20 up front. If it was Nunes, then I'll be less confident. But I'm gonna say 3-0 win for Liverpool. I do think we will concede chances because that's just Liverpool, really. We do concede a lot of chances. I think we need to start off the game well. And I just feel like I reckon we'll have a bit too much for Ipswich in the first game.
Seeing quite a lot of score. Just before I give my score, I'll read out some of these. Obviously, Bay Pops is saying 3-0. Clay saying 4-0 to LFC. Promo's got 4-1. Big up Football Talk podcast. Make sure you subscribe, please. I'm not asking you again. I'm going to ask you again. Please make sure you subscribe to Football Talk podcast. Hakeem saying 5-0 LFC. Banjo saying 3-1. I think I saw another one that might have been a bit earlier on. Yeah, keep your predictions coming in, people. I'd love to see what everyone kind of thinks. Because, listen, look, at the end of the day, it is a bit, look, right. Hollywood Rock saying 2-2. Red for Life saying 3-0. Christian saying 2-1 Ipswich. Philip saying 4-0 Pool. Honestly, I think it's either going to be this or it will be something like this. Like,
I don't think we draw.
Yeah. Like I said, he can't like not win. Like he has to just win. Unfortunately for him, like because of the position that the club is in at the moment, he just has to win. If he doesn't win, it just like I keep saying, the optics always will look bad. That's the only way I look at things now is how does it look in terms of perception. We know us four talking on the panel how we will probably. It's not that deep, but we know there's a Liverpool space about to start going half-time and full-time where these men are going to be ripping into slot regardless. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So
emergency stream or
emergency
or something.
Slot big out. Up to Hassan because I know you got a therapy session coming at some point in time in regards to if Liverpool don't do as well as you know what I mean. You know we should kind of do. Banjo saying we have world-class players. Yeah, we got like maybe like two. But yeah, I definitely hear that. Just before we head out, I saw this from Honesty. Big up your damn self. Honest lot on what is a successful first season for Liverpool. We have to understand that the last 2 seasons we were quite far off City and Arsenal. We are working every day to close that gap. I like the honesty. Because I'm also in agreement with him.
Yeah. So we're saying that we should be up there, basically. You're saying like potentially push to a second because if he was a bit safe, he would have said top 4. I'm expecting him to say top 4 if he's trying to be safe, but he's actually saying we're trying to close the gap. Mm-hmm. So I like that from him, to be honest. Honesty. And as you said, yeah.
No, and I'll be honest, like, and obviously, guys, make sure tomorrow at 11 a.m. I'll be doing like my kind of season expectations for Liverpool. It's pre-recorded, but it'll be out as a live, so I'll be in the chat and we can chop it up anyway. So definitely check that out, and I will talk more on this. But I've liked I think Els, you said it as well. I've liked he hasn't given me anything. You know when you think, oh, this guy's giving me the ick. Like he hasn't given me that kind of feeling or that kind of vibe. And you guys already know, like I'm very hard to please when it comes to football. But with him, I've actually said, you know what? The press conferences you've come out, I've liked it. The way you speak, you're so far. Obviously, we haven't seen December losing 2 games in a row, what he's like with the media. But so far, we've seen what he's been like. Because Klopp was an angel when he came until you get further along the line and they start asking you stupid questions every single week. Let's see that. But for the time being, he's been calm for me. I've got no problems with the manager at all. I like the football that I'm seeing. So you know what I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie and try and complain about it. Like I actually like what I'm seeing from it. I just wish that the club would just help a brother out a little bit and just give him the best possible tools, because I think if you give him the best possible tools, I genuinely believe you'll see something really great with his style of football and him as a manager kind of thing. And some players that we're all talking about, Gravenberch, Elliott, Szoboszlai, all of these kind of guys, I think we can see the best out of these guys, but at the moment we don't want to do that. Hakeem's asking, why did I have to mention December? I don't even know who we've got in December, by the way. I just said December because it's cold. the pitch is all icy, everyone's moany around that time. Yeah, it just seemed like that was the kind of perfect time, man. But any more questions? Els, do you think Arne Slot will have a Spurs season like with Ange, where it's exciting but we don't do well?
I hope not. I don't see why we should, because I think the players that he's inheriting are way better as a collective. I think they're closer to what I'm not going to say they're all, of course, his type of players. You're going to have some like Endo that obviously aren't, but I think a large majority can transition to his football. It will take time, but the signs are good. So I expect us to finish at least in the top four, and possibly third. But I don't see why we should be below it. And I think what he says, we should be looking to close the gap between City and Arsenal. As you said, G, I've liked what he said. He's a cool guy. I think the player. I don't know if you saw the video of him and Trent today. Like he just seems like a guy, you know, like quite relaxed, less intense than Klopp. But because Ange got a bit aggy towards the end, especially.
But this is why I say when you start losing a couple of games, all of a sudden that
he was immediate. People really liked him at the start, and then he started getting really aggy. So let's see. It'll be interesting because I don't think we've really seen Slot not smile. So it will definitely be interesting to see how he does. But yeah, hopefully we do a lot better than Ange did in his first season.
No. Facts. Harris, who do you think is going to be the long-term striker option this season?
I've seen so many reports saying Slot likes Nunes or he's spoken to him on the phone. I hope that's false, but I feel like it will be him.
By the way, who talks English in this? I mean, I know Slot does, but does he speak to him in English or how does that conversation work?
That's what I was thinking. Like he said that he's called all of the players. I was thinking, how are you speaking to Diaz and them, man?
No, Diaz maybe. I know Diaz got better English than Nunes, and I've heard Diaz actually speak English before, in like a conversation. But Nunes doesn't sound like he knows a lick of English, like outside of just phrases kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. But anyways,
how many foreign players do we have?
Sure, I don't know, man. Most of our team is going to be foreign, bro.
But I think it will be Nunes that the starting striker. I really hope not, because like from what I've seen of him, it's like when's he just gonna be consistent, or at least be a bit more consistent with the goals? Because we bought you in for a big price, and when we're seeing that price, we're expecting big things from you. If he was like a £10 million striker, then he'd be out the door. And I said to Jerry the other day, I think the reason why Slot is invested in the club haven't got rid of him is because of the price tag. That's why. So I feel like he's just kind of being forced to start because of that price tag. But I feel like if Jota's fit for the whole season, let's say, I feel like it should be him.
I think 98% of the fan base would definitely agree, apart from the ones who keep. And by the way, I swear, this season when I go to Anfield, I don't want to hear Nunes when he's tying his shoelace. I don't want to hear it, bro. Like, just keep quiet and just support him when he's doing it.
He'll miss a chance, and they will say Nunes. But when it's Gakpo, we're hearing groans in the crowd and everything.
Bro, but and I think that's what annoys me more. That's why I think it annoys me more is that anybody else, you're doing and I'm hearing 1-2 swear words that BT have to start apologizing for and stuff like that, like all of that kind of stuff. But when it's Nunes, Jesus Christ, it's like. But to be fair, towards the back end of last season, what I did start to see though is that when you're just tired now, like enough is enough. Like you've missed too many chances, you've flopped way too many times, and you started to see like with the fan base in some of the games that he was like missing chances in towards the end. Even they weren't even trying to have it. I was like, rah. That's when I know that these guys are not feeling him at all. That's when I know. Like I fully know. When the fan base are now. I never ever hear groans really when Nunes misses chances. Like usually it's
Yeah,
kind
it's
of like
funny. Yeah,
a celebration. It's like, oh, don't worry about it. You go again, which is fine, no problem. But then towards the back end of the season, I think one too many times, bro. Like you're stinking up the gap way too much. Like, and if the fans
and
in
it's funny.
Anfield, they don't. It takes time for them not
it's
to
done.
turn. Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, like what you said with the fans in Anfield, because you see with the Diaz situation, when in his first season when we beat Everton 2-0 at Anfield, and we had Mane there, we had Fabinho, we had all the old players, we beat him 2-0. When he came off the bench, the whole crowd was just like getting off their seat. I remember when he came off the bench and he was kicking what's his name, Coleman. He played that right back, and then he did that Neymar touch, and just everyone went crazy. And now that I'm looking at the situation now, a majority of the fan base has just switched on him. I've always had my thoughts on Diaz. I've always thought he's like a threat, but it's always been that output for me. And like now the fans they just turn on him. So it's just funny how fans work, really. Because if you look at what he's kind of done for the club, he hasn't done much, but he has turned up in certain moments, like against Villarreal. That header when he came off the bench and made a big.
But that was all in his like first 6 months. That's what I was like. You see that 6 months? Like there's been two for me. I don't care about that because you haven't replicated that. So that was then. Since that point onwards, the Diaz that we've seen, I don't even know who that is and what happened. Maybe he got kidnapped and we've got a replacement, but I need that Diaz back if I'm being 100% honest with you. Because
so you just write that off then. So you write that 6 month off. So you write completely
100%. Yeah. Because unfortunately, let's put it this way: that 6 months isn't enough for me to say I want to keep you now. Unfortunately, if it was a year, a whole season of that kind of thing. Obviously, it's not his fault, by the way, he came in January. But I'm just saying, if that was a whole year that he performed like that, I would have nothing to say. If he did stink it up maybe for one season, I'll be like, fairs, I'll give you the one-off kind of season. Maybe you just weren't really at it, blah, blah, blah. But from when I've just not even seen that Diaz, like forget the consistency, I'm just saying that kind of Diaz, I'm just not seeing, if I'm being honest with you. And I think what we're applauding about Diaz mostly isn't even his dribbling and stuff, because we know he can dribble. It's that he works hard off the ball. And I'm like, I mean, that is so basic in terms of what I even expect from some players. Unless you're one of those players who, Mbappe, I don't need you to work off the ball because you're going to score 40, 50 goals, then fairs. But he's not that kind of player. So, with Diaz, it's like, I need you to perform this season. Output is output at the end of the day. Like, I'm not going to judge him necessarily by the output. If I can see in his performances, now he's actually really doing his thing, because remember, the two come hand in hand anyway. If Diaz is performing well, the output will come anyway. They just go hand in hand. If he performs well, because of the position he plays in, the output will come. So we'll see the two go hand in hand. So, yeah, man, I don't know, man. Diaz, I'll leave to it. Last two questions, and then we will head out. Can I ask you, do you think that Slot promised Trent to play him in midfield? And do you think that way we are no longer after a 6? Els, I'll ask you.
I don't think so, because I mean, he tried to get Zubimendi a few days ago, so I can't imagine in 2 days he said, nah, it's okay, Trent can play there. I mean, he's watched these players. He knows who can play where. He watched the Euros. Like, he has an idea. He didn't just, like, come up with a plan this week of who's going to play where. He's known for a while, of course, who he wants in certain positions. He knew from 45 minutes that Endo wasn't for him. So I think we're out. Well, I think he wants a 6. The club, I don't even know what they're doing. Apparently, there's no one else in the world that can play that position. So yeah, I just think it's a case of the club needing to be a bit braver and go for an alternative.
No, I hear it, man. I hear it. Jerry, you there? What's his message?
Yeah, I'm there, man.
Oh, no, I was asking, what's your I'll ask you quickly just before we head out. What's your score prediction for the game?
Don't know, man. 2-1, 3-1, 2-1.
2-1. 2-1. I'm assuming you meant to LFC, right?
Sorry. 1-2 in it. Well, 2-2, 1-2.
Oh no. You could have still said 2-1. I'm just making sure with you. We don't ever really know. Yeah, man. I think that's kind of it, man. I think we've gone through quite a bit of the news that's been going on with Liverpool. We've gone through Ipswich preview, first game of the season opener. I'm going to end it with this question. Bigger Arch, and I'll answer this question. Do you like any Liverpool players? People out here forgetting how good of a season we had. Salah, Alisson.
Edge.
Virgil.
Dope.
The thing is, I actually like Dope. There's something about Dope. But yeah, in terms of first teamers, yeah, Salah. Yeah, Salah, Ali, and Virgil. And Virgil's like last, like super last on that list. Everyone knows Salah will be top. Ali, bro, this guy saved man too many times. Yeah, Virgil. I'm trying to figure out someone else in the team.
Trent?
No, I don't know, man. There's something about Trent that I don't like. Like, I've never really liked his type of. You know what it is? I think it's ever since. No. I think it's ever since he started to do the inverting. I started to just dislike him as a player. Like when he turned into that kind of player, I was like, yeah, you think you're someone and you're not. Like you think you're that person and you're actually not. And I didn't peg you as someone who had an ego kind of trip about you as an individual. You know, I've heard people say, but he's trying to evolve. What do you mean trying to evolve? Like, do you see Cafu telling man that he wanted to be an inverted right back, like when he was playing there? Bro, stick your position and stay there, man. Like, don't be bigger than what you think you are. And I think that's when I started to dislike him over a period of time. At first, I did. Obviously, he was coming through. He was an academy player, but yeah, other than that. By the way, when you guys are saying, I know these world class. I'm not saying they're not. By the way, I know they are world class players. I'm saying if I had to pick players that I actually liked, yeah, it's only really those three. In the squad, Zabozalai. I still fucks with him, even though he frustrates the living daylights out of me. But I still have stocks in him enough. The rest, I'm like, yeah, I mean, they're right. I mean, they're cool. They're cool. All right. Sorry, what did you say?
That was a massive silence.
Yeah. Because I had to think, like, yeah, I mean, you know me. It's like you can't just be liking everyone, you know, because. Listen, I've been through the eras where Voronin was my strikers, and I'm liking Luis Garcia because like he's the only one ghost goal and all of that kind of stuff. You know, I'm getting gassed because we signed Morientes like from thing like, bro, I'm tired of all of that stuff. So my heart couldn't be left out to these guys anymore. So now it took a while. Everyone, I told everyone just before we leave, I'll say this: how many times have I told people when Salah came, I did not want that guy at all. Like I was like, why are you signing this bum? Salah's my favorite Liverpool player. So people can change your mind all the time, man. All the time. But guys, we will leave it there. Big up everybody who has tuned in this evening. I'd like to thank my guests, Els, Luis, Diaz's dad, and Harris. Love for you guys for jumping in this evening. Els, man, what have you got coming up, man? Other than catching you on Sky Sports potentially, what have you got coming up?
Gold Diggers is back, so I'm gonna miss this one because I wasn't sure whether to go straight in, especially after the Zubimendi. So I'm gonna be back next week.
I kind of need you there to, Anita and Thames. I need you guys to calm them down.
Let us get past Ipswich because I'm not sure. Because if we don't win that game,
it's a bit tough, I
can't cover anything. So yeah, I'll be back next week. Defending Liverpool with my life as usual.
No, I think when I think about it, especially when you're on the podcast, I'm just trying to think. You're going to be laughing more at what Chelsea do than what Liverpool are doing, or than they are about Liverpool this season. So you'll be fine. Don't worry, man. You'll be spending more weeks smiling than it is. Harris, man. Obviously, I know I don't want to say anything too soon. Just yet, I know there are things in the works, but I know you said that you will be potentially starting a YouTube channel and that, man. So guys, just make sure if and when he does that you guys are you stay locked in, man. you stay locked in, man. I don't want to say too much just yet until he's got it up and running, you know. But yeah, just make sure you guys stay tuned for that. There is the Gold Diggers UK podcast, so make sure you guys subscribe. Philippe, that is it's literally right above your message. So yeah, make sure you subscribe. Big up Quasi in the building, my bro. Hope you are doing well. Love ends for the hitting the 1.5. As I said, 2K, and then we will do memberships. Yeah, membership should be fun, man. It should be fun. It's only going to be one tier, by the way. It's only going to be one tier. So hopefully you guys obviously, you know, join up and then we can chop it up. I've obviously got the Fantasy Premier League. I will be doing a prize. It begrudges me. If you know Ghanaians, we do not like spending money. So the fact that I'm even saying that I will spend money and get someone a prize, you guys should be ever so grateful. Yes, I will be doing a prize come the end of the season for the winner. Only the winner. There's no second place. There's no third place. This ain't the Olympics. Winner will get a football shirt of their choosing. Whatever football shirt that you want, whatever team that you support, doesn't matter. So make sure you guys enter into the FPL. It's free. You get, I mean, there's a chance to win a football shirt, so why not? And yeah, I think that's about it. Oh yes, you'll be redirected to Enz's stream, which is tomorrow, which is his preview for the game. Don't worry, we will be in the chat because we know that Enz, potentially Savage, and Cav, Zubiri, where we know they're going to say some crazy stuff, guys. So we need to make sure that we're in there, you know, just to kind of, you know, settle them down a little piece. What else am I missing? TikTok, follow me on TikTok, and yeah, man, I think that's about it, man. I think that's about it for the time being. Big up, honestly, yeah, man. We're on the road to not even 10K. We're on the road to 100K, man. We're on the road to 100K. So hopefully we get that by next week. So that's the kind of target that we're trying to aim for, man. But guys, catch you tomorrow, 11 a.m. Keep your notification bells on. I will be dropping my video for Liverpool and the expectations for the season and what I expect from Arne Slot and some of the Liverpool players. Catch you in a bit. Peace.